On September 9th, 1999, I spent $199 on a video game system that I have no regrets buying. Never did, never second thought it. The Dreamcast launched that day. It was the second Sega home console I ever owned. The first was the Sega Saturn, which I really loved as well. I've got fond memories of the Dreamcast and the actual launch of the system. I remember pre-ordering it at Toys R Us. They had a display unit on the floor that you could play, but I never touched it. I wanted to experience the system fresh. That's just the way it was. I remember when the Nintendo 64 launched. Prior to that, they had display units at certain places, and I played the crap out of it with the Dreamcast. I didn't want to do that. But, with the launch of the Dreamcast, Sega, they sold around 250,000 units within the first 24 hours. Peter Moore at that time, he declared it the biggest 24 hours in entertainment retail history. It was a huge thing. I remember them promoting the Dreamcast on like MTV. It was all over the place. And just a couple months after that, Sega, they sold around 1 million units, over 1 million units, it looks like, which gave them about a third of the gaming market at the time. It seemed like they were set for success. I mean, it was huge. But it's sad to think just a couple years after that, the Dreamcast would be discontinued. Just didn't seem fair. During this time, the Dreamcast was doing fairly well in the US, but in Japan, it just wasn't received quite as well. I'm not really sure with that, never really understood it. But Sega, they were suffering financial losses during this time, and they were trying to keep the Dreamcast alive by having like price cuts and whatnot to entice more customers, and it just wasn't working. It does seem a big part of the reason the Dreamcast wasn't doing as well overall was due to the hype of the PlayStation 2. In the US, the PS2 was launched about a year later, a little over a year later than the Dreamcast. I bought a PS2 on launch day at the Target that was next to the Toys R Us that I got my Dreamcast at. And yeah, myself, like many others, pretty much moved on at that point, just kind of leaving the Dreamcast behind. It sucks to think that maybe we all played a role in the demise of the Dreamcast, but in reality, I refuse to take any kind of blame. Big game releases for the Dreamcast started to dwindle down a bit. Stuff to get excited for was kind of few and far between at that point. I still had my Dreamcast when I bought the PS2, and I still played it. But yeah, I mean, things just weren't coming out anymore, and then just shortly after that, it was gone. I wish things could have gone a little differently here. It would have been nice to have the Dreamcast and PS2 coexist alongside each other. But, it's just weird. I don't know how to explain it. Playing the PS2 for as long as I did and all the games I had for it, over the years playing the PS2 far more than I did the Dreamcast. But when I look back, it's like I have fonder memories of the Dreamcast. Maybe it's the short lifespan of the Dreamcast left a longer impression on me. I was able to focus on, just specific titles, and they were all kind of really good. I don't remember having too much in the way of crap for the Dreamcast. I don't know. It's really hard to explain. I also remember having a subscription to the official Dreamcast magazine during this time. It was a pretty cool magazine. I always loved gaming magazines. This one, it came with like demo discs, and that was sweet, getting to take a look at some things. But I don't know. At some point, I remember renewing my subscription and then just no magazines ever coming again. Pissed me the hell off. The magazine was discontinued, no heads up, nothing. To this day, I never received a refund, them bastards. When you look back at it all, the Dreamcast really was ahead of its time. It shipped with a modem built into it. Holy crap. Maybe we weren't ready for the awesomeness of it all. I don't know. The Dreamcast, it was a first for me in many regards. The first time I felt like I was playing arcade-perfect ports at home for fairly current arcade games. The first time I played a home console online. And the first time I used a microphone to chat with people during a game. Times were sweet with the Dreamcast, and though its lifespan was cut short, it still lives on as one of my all-time favorite consoles. A large portion of its library still holds up to today, and I love revisiting many of these classics for the Dreamcast. I remember playing Soul Calibur at home and thinking, crap, graphics could never get any better than this. Playing online with my friends on Phantasy Star Online, there were 3 of us. We all had a Dreamcast, and after work in the evenings, we would all meet up in a lobby and just do some missions. Man, I cherish those times. It was great. Eventually, we did move on to Phantasy Star Online version 2. And I remember you had to pay like, what was it, $7 or $8 a month, something like that, for a hunter license. That kind of sucked, having to pay to play online, but you know, it was kind of, you know, showing you what the future would hold, I guess. But it was worth it, I think, at that time, playing PSO version 2, up until the hackers started fucking with the game, though. It wasn't just these fools duplicating items and hacking weapons. These bastards, they would just like instantly kill you, corrupt your save file, delete everything you worked hard for. It was fun while it lasted anyway, I guess. But there were so many other games that I loved playing on the system too. Not just the online stuff, but you know, we had like Jet Set Radio, Space Channel 5, Seaman, what? It was great. It was really great. Having a lot of cool stuff to play online was definitely neat. But I remember like playing these games online. The first game that I chatted with people was Alien Front Online. That game, it shipped with a microphone, so that was like a first for me, like I said a moment ago. I'm sure there was, you know, a lot of us that was probably one of our first experiences doing that. If you had a Dreamcast, because I never chatted with people online before. You know, sure, I played other online games on my PC prior to the Dreamcast, but chatting was always relegated to typing on the keyboard for me. So this was a cool new experience. Yeah, the experience with voice chat, I'm sure, I can't remember exactly, but I am sure, I'm positive, because just the way things go, it was probably mostly kids trying to sound edgy and just blurting out ridiculous crap. But, you know, it's crazy to think I could play a game on a console and talk to people through a microphone attached to a controller. It's freaking crazy. Now it's just the norm, I guess. Arcade ports on the Dreamcast were awesome too. Like Crazy Taxi, all the different fighting games we got. Street Fighter 3 was a game that I really loved at the time. I played it whenever I had the chance in the arcade, the 3 iterations of Street Fighter 3 anyway. So when it was released on the Dreamcast, it was a dream come true. Maybe that's why they call it the Dreamcast, I don't know. It wasn't some dumbed down port. The versions of Street Fighter 3 and the Dreamcast, they really felt like and looked like the original arcade games, and that was sweet to me. If you were a fighting game fan, the Dreamcast was the console to own at the time. It seemed like every couple months a new arcade fighter was coming to the system. I mean, that's definitely something to appreciate. All the way up till the end, we were getting some sweet fighting games and arcade ports. So, you know, the Dreamcast, it really was home to a lot of cool games, first-party exclusives, weird, quirky things to awesome arcade ports. The Dreamcast is a system that I feel really deserved a longer lifespan. And, you know, ultimately after the Dreamcast and Sega's financial woes, they just stopped producing consoles. I know I've heard over the years many rumors of Sega coming back with a Dreamcast 2 or something along those lines. I just don't ever see that happening. I can't see them being able to get in the middle of the big three today. You never know, but I think they're just content with where they're at, like no more consoles. It just, man, you know, if the things would have played out differently, you know, it's kind of interesting to ponder what could have been if Sega never got out of the console business, if the Dreamcast was a larger success. But, you know, regardless of all that, we can always look back at our actual memories of Sega's consoles and revisit them if we choose. For me, the Dreamcast was, you know, my favorite console that they produced. Happy motherfucking birthday, Dreamcast. I still loves you. Appreciate you guys.